Alright, welcome back to the SuperCoach Nuff channel. In this video, we're going to do the stock market review for round 24 rather of the 2023 season. It's something a bit different this week. We're into our head-to-head finals. We're all looking for that slight edge. A lot of us have a lot of the same players. So I thought what we might do is just have a bit of a look at some point of difference options. And I thought to make it fair, I'd look at one from each club. It's not to say that there is only one option at each club. It's not to say that there is a good option at some clubs. But I've done my best to try and find some potential league winners for you guys. So we'll kick off with the Broncos, and Tony Staggs is my pick at 8.7% percent ownership. He definitely fits that category. A 3 round average of 90. So, he's in form, and it must have got deleted, but I'm pretty sure from memory, doing the research, he has had 7 scores of over 100 across his career. I know he has been going for a few years, but still, players with that sort of upside are the ones that can win you these league head-to-head matchups. So, you know, it, the Broncos are going well. He's got runs on the board in terms of big scores. So, he's one that you could definitely take a punt on, particularly if you need to trade out a CNK, that sort of player. Next, we've got the Bulldogs and Big Viliami kick out. So, not a lot of sort of data to go on this year. So we have sort of, gone back through the records. At 1.8% ownership, though, he is, a super pod in that sense. He has scored 6 tons. Admittedly, that they were all with Penrith. But as you can see there, his career PPM, when you work it out, is about 0.9. So, every time he's gone on the field, you can expect close to a point a minute. And he does have that upside. He has the size, the skill, the strength to get tries, put on tries, that sort of thing. Obviously, you might think the Bulldogs haven't don't inspire the most confidence, but if anything, it's probably been more their defence this year that's the issue rather than their attack. Particularly now, you've got the combination of Matt Burton, Viliami kick out there on the left edge. From the Raiders, I've gone with Matt Timoko. So 3.7% ownership, so another super pod. Decent 5 round average at the moment of 65. And he's currently down about 150k on where he peaked mid season when he did go on that bit of a tear. Was a really popular option going into the first bye. So you know that he can score consistently and consistently high. The Raiders do have a tougher draw though, so this is probably one of those ones I suggested that wasn't the peak target in terms of pods, but definitely one to consider if you like the Raiders' chances in the next few weeks. Next we've got the Dolphins, and he's really been one of the pods we've talked about all year. But Jeremy Marshall King, season average of 65 means he's been doing the business all year. And the 3 round average of 69 suggests that, he's not feeling that injury that he's had sort of around the last sort of origin buy period. So, if you're looking for something a bit different than Grant and Cook, as the popular combination of hookers for the end of the year, I think JMK is a really good option. The Titans, so we've gone with Jaden Campbell. He's playing fullback this week. It probably comes down to AJ Brimson's injury and how serious that is. So it could be a week by week proposition. But, when he has got a chance, he's scored well. You can see his 5 round average of 65, which you might think is, middle of the road, particularly at the fullback. But it has come at 1 point per minute. So if he plays 80 minutes, you can adjust that average up to 80. and that could be enough to make the difference. But yeah, this is definitely one that's a bit more taking on trust than having hard facts to back it up. Yeah, we know what his potential is. It'd be a brave person to go it, but again, it is a point of difference option. I guess Big Tino was probably a bit too highly owned to consider at this point, but I know with a lot of people trading him out, he could also be a pretty decent point of difference. But as much as possible, I've tried to look at under 10%. So speaking of players under 10% owned, this is probably the most outrageous shout in the lot. But for the Storm, I've gone with Ryan Pappenhausen. So he obviously came back through the Q Cup last week, only playing 40 minutes. You'd assume he'd have to get through 80 minutes in the Q Cup this week to even be considered. Um, but, if he is at 0.3% owned, I don't know who's been holding him all season. Maybe some players that picked before the start of the season and then obviously had no interest in the game. But his career stats here, you can see he averaged 90 last year, which is insane. His career points per minute, I went back through the 4 seasons he's played, and you can see it's pretty consistent. 1.4, zero point 0.9. That was the COVID year, so there was a bit messed up there. And then 1.3, 1.3 the last 2 years. I guess what's limited his overall output is injury. Um, but you'd expect if he comes back in for the last 2 3 rounds of the season that yeah, he could be a massive point of difference for your side. From the Manly Seagulls, I've gone with Hamole Olakwatu. So I guess the exception that proves the rule here, he is over 10% owned. But outside of that, I could have gone DCE, but a bit like the Storm, I could have gone with Jerome Hughes. But I don't really see them shaking the sort of big three um, off the position in terms of halfbacks. So I avoided them and I've looked further afield. And across the rest of the Seagulls side, there wasn't anyone I particularly liked, so I've plumbed for Olakwatu, despite being just above 10%. But he's in form, 3 round average of 77, and scored 8 tries this year. So part of these edge back rowers, if we're looking at them as pods, is that ability to score tries, and Olakwatu is one of the better ones at it in the league. Newcastle Knights, so I had penciled Bradman Best into this spot, but unfortunately he has injured himself. He would have been perfect. Um, and so I had a bit of a decision between Dan Gagai or Dom Young. As you can see, I've gone with Dom Young, slightly higher owned at 4.5%, lower average than Gagai. Dan Gagai is averaging about 70, but Dom Young has the upside. And I guess when we're looking at these point of differences, particularly in the centre wing, uh, we do want to look for that upside. So he has scored 3 tons this season. He has also scored 5 games of less than 30. So it is definitely a rocks or diamonds type pick. Um, so yeah, so if you are willing to sort of risk it for the biscuit, particularly this week, they're playing the Bulldogs, and as we talked about previously, their defence hasn't been fantastic this year. So yeah, Dom Young could get a bag and win your head to head this week. The Cowboys, obviously, the Cowboys are on the bye this week, but I think the obvious sort of point of difference pick in this side is Scott Drinkwater. He's despite being on a massive tear, he's still only 8.4% owned, mostly because his price has been so high. It has now dipped under the million mark, so it is slightly more obtainable. Particularly if we're talking about Pappenhausen being a point of difference at his $900,000 price. It might be worth if you can, you know, if you've got the buy this week in your head-to-head finals, you won the first week. You can probably hold Scott Drinkwater. Obviously, you don't trade him in this week, but definitely one to target next week. From the Warriors, we've got DWZ with Tony Zalesniak. So 7.9% owned, season average of 70. And he's got a pretty sweet gig there, playing on the right wing outside of Sean Johnson, who is absolutely killing it. We've talked a lot about Sean Johnson and the great run he's got the back end of the year. So if he's feeding the winger to score some tries, you can stack up and get, I guess, all the points out of that. So, um, DWZ, particularly if you do need to cover for CNK this week, straight swap, obviously, same team. Um, but yeah, nice pointing difference for the last few weeks. From the Eels, I had to go with Dylan Brown. I guess some people may not want to bring him in based off, the off-field activities, and that's fair enough. It's your team; you can run it the way you want. But if you are just looking to score points, and you can put that aside, he's averaging 75 for the season, which across 5/8 is really good. 4% owned or 3.9% even. And out of the 14 games he's played, four of them have been over 100. So, a real difference maker for the back end of the season. From the Panthers, I guess, they've got a lot of big guns that are highly owned, but surprisingly, Isaiah Yeo, less than 10% owned. So I guess this isn't an upside pick. This is the solid base pick that you bring in if you've got, a, I guess a couple of teams that are quite similar and you just want to have that solid base to make sure that you do score points and keep within touch of the opposition. As you can see, he's averaged 70, 3 round average of 83. So I guess that's showing that with Cleary back in the side, he has elevated. I think other than the Melbourne game, his last 9, 10 games before, through, and after Origin, he's scored 70 and above. So um, yeah, I didn't quite crunch all the numbers on that. I just took the ones off of the list. But yeah, he's definitely been improving his scoring in the back half of the season as the Panthers have really started to ramp it up. So from the Dragons, surprisingly, I think had the pick of the lot. I think it's only their dual position enough forward, Viliami Fafita, that was over 10%, which I thought was interesting. So I thought might as well go with the form and Michaeli Ravalawa. So 142 last week shows his upside. He's only 1% owned um, and has 18 tries this season. And I guess when you look at the Dragons sitting second bottom on the table, you might think, well, there's not a lot of attacking options there. But Ravalawa is finding the try line still. So you could do worse than pick him up and have a flyer in the last few weeks. With the Sharks, I'll be honest, I couldn't split these two, so I thought, you know what, we'll throw in an extra player and give you guys two options. So the two centres, Jesse Ramey and CSC for Talakai. Um, so their prices are very similar. Obviously, their position in the side at the Sharks is very similar. But if we look at the averages and 3 round averages, you can see Jesse Ramian's probably the form player, given that his season average is 55, but he is averaging 67 across the last 3 rounds. Whereas Sifa Talakai averaging 61, but 3 round average of 42 suggests that he's in a bit of a lull. So, you might want to play the hot hand in Ramian. You might back Talakai, who's got the runs on the board earlier in the year, to turn the form around. Um, I forgot to put their ownerships, but they're about similarly owned too. I think both about 5%. So take your pick with them. I couldn't split them, so you got a bit of both. With the Rabbitohs, so another one that was tricky to pick. A lot of popular players there like Cody Walker, Latrell, Cam Murray, Damien Cook. So I've gone with Kaloa Matangi, 9.1% owned. So even amongst these pods, he is slightly higher owned. Um, when I looked, I thought he would have had more tries than five this year. Um, I guess obviously he has missed a few games through injury, so that would impact it as well. But particularly for this week, he averages 71 across his career against the Dragons. And so obviously, that would include some upticks in scoring. So it could be one if you're looking to get an edge this week. Must win games from here on in your head to head leagues. Klamatangi might be a nice little option there for you. From the Roosters, again, a couple of their players are quite highly owned. Tedesco, Manu. After that, there is quite a few pods. But I guess the one that presents the most upside is Joseph Swali. So 6% owned, 5 round average of 65. So if you compare that to his season average, which is I think around 50, it suggests that he is in a good form at the moment. Kicking goals as well. So as the Roosters have improved across the season, scoring more tries means that he gets more opportunities to score points. So if you're looking for a pod from the Roosters, I think Swally is your man. And finally, the West Tigers. Appy Coruscant I've got as the pod option there. So 3.6% ownership, super low, 3 round average of 81. And the fact, I guess, like Swally, he kicks the goals with Brandon Wakeham sort of being relegated to the reserves. Playing hooker, playing big minutes there, so lots of defence. So solid base with that upside potential. Um, I've already said Marshall King is an option, but at a slightly lower price, I really like Appy Coruscant. So I believe that's about it. Yeah, so a nice quick one today. Like I guess there's people that don't have a lot of trades, so there's no point going through a lot of options. But I just thought something a bit different, some point of difference players to think about if you are looking for that edge in your head-to-head league. Um, but yeah, we'll wrap that up there. So as always, if you've got any comments or thoughts, or you've got your own point of difference player that I might have missed, and you want to talk it up and how good they're going, feel free to do so in the comment section below. If you enjoy the content, and particularly, I guess, this slightly different style of video, please give us a like and subscribe to the channel for more content. As always, other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.